Hey, welcome back to Subbrief's Naval News. This is where we take a look at what the Navy's doing this week with the assistance of U.S. Naval Institute News Fleet Tracking Graphic. They make this graphic every week. It's fantastic for what we do here. I'm really going to focus on Venezuela today, but before we get to that, I just want to update you on what's going on in the Pacific over there with the Nimitz and the George Washington Carrier Strike Group. The Nimitz is still hanging out in the South China Sea, probably related to the two lost airframes that are on the sea bottom right now. They're definitely going to recover those. They're probably just watching that area until those operations can get underway, which can take a long time. So I don't know if they're going to keep the entire carrier strike group there the entire time, but there's certainly going to be somebody anchored and posted above those wreck sites until we get those assets back. It's an F-18 frame aircraft and a helicopter as well are on the bottom. Okay, the George Washington, there are a lot of Georges that were presidents. The George Washington is up in South Korea. They did a port visit up there, a little goodwill visit, but they also went to sea, had a great photo op with the South Korean Navy. It's just doing some workups up there, keeping those relations going. So Japan, Korea, Philippines, and Australia, all of us working really well together right now in that region of the world, kind of keeping an eye on things. I do want to highlight a destroyer that's operating independently, which is really shows how strong these destroyers are, that they don't need a fleet around them to do their mission. And that's USS Mitchell, that is in the Red Sea right now. And she's out there keeping an eye on things between the Houthis and the Egyptians and all the chaos that tends to go on in that area of the world. They're out there just watching it, providing their own support, communications, weapon employment if necessary. This just shows how great this ship is in that, like submarines, it can operate independently and it doesn't have all the advantages that submarines have in terms of not being detected and stealth. You know, it's out there, you know, just keeping an eye on things alone. It's called independent duty. The destroyers do this all the time. They don't get a lot of credit for it. So I wanted to point out them in the Red Sea. So a big tip of the hat to the officers and crew of USS Mitchell, and hope I'm saying that name right. All right, let's focus on the Atlantic for a second. You see that the George H.W. Bush has left Norfolk, and there's three things that they can do. They can stay in the North Atlantic, you know, maybe even go back to port. Maybe they're just doing a workup, Computex to do their next deployment. That could be, you know, like basically it's a naval war game that we do with ourselves to get ready for deployment. She could move into the Mediterranean and, you know, have a presence in that area. We've always seemed to have a carrier in the Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf. Right now is one of those rare times when we don't have one in either. So she could be the replacement for that. Or, and this is the fun one, she could actually join the Ford Carrier Strike Group, Carrier Strike Group 12, who's also out of Norfolk, and do dual carrier operations off the coast of Venezuela. Wouldn't that be nuts? It's nuts right now having the Ford and the Iwo Jima ARG down there together as we speak, as we're recording this. It's possible that we could have a second aircraft carrier down there should the administration order the Department of War to do that. So that's kind of what's going on around the world. A lot of activity in the North Atlantic. Haven't seen anything like this since, I want to say, Persian Gulf War I, 1990s. The second Gulf War, 2003, you know, I was busy on base doing things. I was part of that on the American side, so I didn't get the big picture. I don't have a good reference to say something, a buildup like this went on in the Persian Gulf during that conflict. I only have the first Gulf War to reference, but I haven't seen a buildup like this in decades. And so what we're seeing now off the coast of Venezuela and in just the Caribbean, you know, region is just incredible with the ARG you see down there. That's full of Marines. There's some, there's 2,200 Marines alone in that MEU, and then there's additional support personnel for them. So the number comes in right around 4,000 is the estimate right now. And then you had the Carrier Strike Group to that, which is an immense overmatch for anybody in the world, much less any of the South American militaries. We're adding on top of that. Now, this graphic is from Mr. Ian Ellis Jones. Credit to him for doing this. He puts these out regularly. Every couple days, he updates this. It's really great. And it's accurate, which is so important in today's world where there's so much information that is not real. Mr. IEJ Media is real. So I want to add to this graphic here, 2 destroyers left Norfolk this week and have met with the J.R. Ford Carrier Strike Group. And so normally that would be a destroyer rotation. 2 would come in to relieve 2 destroyers to go back to Norfolk for, whatever reasons. But because of the current operation that's happening in the Caribbean right now, it's possible that we're just adding 2 more destroyers to the protection of that carrier for a total of 6, going from 4 to 6 right now. If that's the case, it would also make sense to perhaps move the aircraft carrier, the George H.W. Bush, down there as well for dual carrier operations off the coast of Venezuela. That's where that idea of mine came from. That has not happened yet, but that's something I want you to look for, because I bet you in the coming days, maybe we announce dual carrier operations off the coast of Venezuela. So at this point, the overmatch against the Venezuelan military is so high, I don't see what escalating this in terms of number of forces could possibly do. There are some benefits to doing this from a military side of view that help us, in that this is good practice. This is good operational training for everybody involved. The sailors, the Marines, the air crews and the airframes, airplanes in the Air Force coming down with the B-52s and the B-1s, all of them are getting good operational practice. But whenever your country becomes the practice field for the U.S. military, you might want to pick up a phone and ask what the hell's going on. And clearly Venezuela is refusing to do that as we add more and more forces down there to those guys. So we've already practiced, amphibious operations on some Caribbean islands down there. The Marines aren't just sitting on the ship doing nothing, even though to the individual Marine it probably feels that way. They are still going out and exercising. And today I want to talk about what we might see next. Like, what's the next step? Are we going to add more destroyers to this? What more can we add to this without taking it to a more kinetic level? Right now, we're just smoking a couple of drug runners that come out into international waters from the coastline, and we haven't gone past that. So what's the next step? Well, I did some digging, and credit to csis.org for writing a great multi-page report on what Venezuela is about, why they produce cocaine, where they produce cocaine, the leadership that's involved in the cocaine production that the U.S. has labeled Cartel de las Soles, which means that from the president on down of Venezuela, military leaders as well, are actually the leaders, the top rung of this cartel, and they're operating and they're running the country. So that's really the United States' argument, is that this whole country is a cartel from a leadership point of view, not the individual people that live and work there and pay taxes. The people that run the country also run the cocaine production. And there's a lot of evidence to support that. The question is, what does anyone do about it? Well, the United States is taking the action that we're taking. So I referenced this CSIS report, and I modified their graphic, by the way. The low risk yellow box area is my addition to this. And what I want to focus on here is the eastern part of Venezuela today. This is where I think if we go ashore and conduct bombings and take out the cocaine production laboratories, facilities, all those words make it sound fancy. I'm talking about huts in the jungle that they're using gasoline and coca leaves to make cocaine. I'm not going to go over the whole process for you, but it's not fancy, and it's not going to be a big building. It's going to be something that is large in terms of footprint, but very primitive in terms of production. And those are scattered throughout the eastern region of Venezuela. This is a highly dense jungle area with lots of rivers, very tropical, of course, as you would expect. There's very low infrastructure. Roads do not connect everything down here. And there's very low population, which makes this a very low risk environment for the United States military to work in. And so I think the next step, if we get Kinetic on the land side of things, is we're going to see strikes in this region right here. And the reason why I think that is there is a region that's being contested between Venezuela and its neighboring country of Guyana, and it's called the Essequibo region. Now, this region has been contested between these two countries going back to the Spanish Empire. It's really, a centuries old conflict that has recently, within the past couple of years, been formally contested again in international courts by the Venezuelan government. saying that this region belongs to Venezuela, not Guyana. Now, Guyana has been very friendly for many decades to the United States, mostly because they don't have much of a military. They have a police force and then a border patrol type force. They technically do have a military, but it's not much. So they need friends. And they've got the best friend in the region, the United States. That kind of sets the tone and relationship we have with that country. We operate there and do drills there all the time. It's not talked about very much because we do them with everybody else around the world as well. Guyana is not special in that case, but it's a very valuable relationship we have with them right now because that gives us land-based access, should we choose, the United States choose to take it, to get into this contested region that Venezuela claims, Guyana claims, and if we have troops in Guyana, they could be in Essequibo. And I don't mean regular Army troops. I'm talking about special warfare operators, of which there are approximately estimated 450 operating in this region right now, I believe are operating in this Essequibo region, doing drone overflies of eastern Venezuela, locating those production facilities for targeting because they're not mobile. Once they set up that primitive facility where they're processing product, right, that's going to stay there and that's going to become a target. I think that's happening right now. And the reason why I think that is because of this vessel. See how these are all linked together? You just put the little pieces together and it paints a pretty convincing picture that this is underway. So this ship here is called the MV Ocean Trader. This is a special warfare support vessel, and that's not secret. That's an open source information that's out there available to everyone. Whenever you see this ship off the coast of a country, there's probably special warfare operations happening in places like Syria, Libya, before Gaddafi fell, for example. You'll see ships like this one supporting operations that are happening ashore that are not public. So this ship here supports, hundreds of special warfare operators. It has its own crew as well. Out of this ship, they fly drones, they fly small helicopters, not really the big ones, and small boats can be hoisted and lifted from over the side there. This is where the special warfare operators would come back from whatever mission that they were on and gear back up again, get some rest, get a hot meal, and then get back to it again. This is the rest and replenishment vessel strictly for them. So they don't have to operate out of the Iwo Jima and where sailors would see special warfare operators operating all the time. They have their own quiet little boat where the common sailor never even sees them. So someone can't go home after, a mission like this and talk to their family and friends or get on social media and talk about what they saw, even though they're not supposed to do that. Boats like this keep it all in-house. This boat is operating, this picture's from St. Croix, but it's operating off the coast of Venezuela right now. And it's been there since September. So this is not something that just arrived. They've been operating in this region for at least a month. And it's approximately 450 total people. That doesn't mean 450 people ashore. That's just total people in that side of operations. Now, it's possible they haven't even gone ashore yet. Okay, let's keep that in mind. But I'm telling you, I think that this is the next step. And this really won't be public until this whole thing's over and people go back and look at how did this unfold. That's when we'll know if this is how it's going to happen or not. But I think that these special warfare operators are already pinpointing targets for bombing and tomahawk strikes that we will see in the future. All right. And that's your update for Venezuela this week. We'll keep an eye on it and see how right or wrong we are by next week. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you then.